Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about the Drudigar VidQuest, and specifically I'm going to be talking about the white encounter at Emivoir's Grove. So the player characters are traveling through the forest, okay, and they have just encountered Lig. Lig is a powerful wizard, 20th level wizard, who has been assassinated at this point by the members of White. And White is a group of 5 female assassins. And, excuse me, I say they're assassins. They actually, they are a baker, a fighter, a cleric, a rogue, and a wizard. But they operate as, they take all those skills and they operate as a group of assassins, okay? So White is going to encounter the PCs, and at this point, the PC should be chasing Drudigar. Drudigar is, of course, the dire wolf, okay? Now, it's possible, and we haven't talked about this yet, but we'll talk about it now. It's possible that your player characters, when Lig said, hey, Drudigar, I need you to go and protect Drudigar, it is possible, because they won't understand, Lig understood that Drudigar, the dire wolf, was headed toward the town of Six Bells, and either the people in Six Bells would kill Drudigar, which is unlikely, or Drudigar would kill quite a few people in Six Bells. Any way it went, Lig didn't want Drudigar to die, and he didn't want anybody in Six Bells to die, right? So he asked the PCs to help them, to help him to solve this situation where his dire wolf was headed toward this innocent village, and really Drudigar, his dire wolf, is innocent as well, right? So basically, he's asking for help. Now, it's possible that the player characters said, I don't care, whatever, right? Now, at this point, you can have White still encounter the player characters, even if they have decided that they don't care about Lig's request. So that, you absolutely can go that direction, right? Because essentially now you would need to switch the location, and, and again, they would be meeting them in the forest, just in a different area, not in Emivoir's Grove, okay? So just wanted to explain that, all right? So let's say that your player characters are chasing after Drudigar. They're moving quickly, right, through the forest. And so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to give them a perception check. And they will have the possibility of seeing one of White's members who are on horseback, okay? Now, at this point, all the members of White are traveling together. They're all within 30 feet of another member of White, okay? And they're riding their horses through the forest, and now, just so you're aware, they won't, none of the player characters will see any hoof prints, even in the deep snow, okay? Now, basically, this entire area is covered in snow, okay? But none of the player characters will see any hoof prints from White, and the reason why is all of their horses are wearing horseshoes of the Zephyr, okay? So that means that they don't leave any prints, right? So at that point, the player characters, they get a perception check to see if they encounter White, if they see White before White sees them, okay? All right, now, the player characters are coming along, and they'll get a perception check to see if they see one of White's members. Now, there is one member that is special. They can encounter any of the members first except one, and that is Marsta. Marsta is the fighter. She is their archer, and she has a white bow with white arrows and white fletching, okay? So that is the biggest clue that these are the people who killed Lig, right? So essentially, it's possible the player characters could think it's a coincidence, but the reality is, when the player character saw Lig, he was absolutely pincushioned with arrows from Marsta's bow, which have white shaft and white fletching, very unique. Okay, and of course, all of the members of White wear complete white, and all their equipment is white, and all their magic items are white. all right? So it's their theme, right? And so essentially, and it's also their camouflage, and we're going to talk about their camouflage in just a minute, because it serves a very effective purpose, which you will see, okay? All right, so basically they're coming along. So you have to keep Marsta back. She's going to be the last person they see, okay? But it's possible, so if the player characters see one of these women, I try to give player characters as much absolute freedom as possible. So they can walk up and they can talk to White, the member of White that they see, or they can attack them right out of the gate, right? Like, you shouldn't do anything to stop that. Let your player characters make their choices, okay? All right, now, and the player characters, yeah, so that's up to them, right? You want to let them make their choices. All right, so 9 chances out of 10, they're going to talk to one of the members. And the members should be Irion, okay? So Irion she's the baker, right? She has an 18 charisma, wisdom, and intelligence. And essentially, she's just an incredibly likable person. Everybody loves her, right? Dealing with her. And so what she'll do is she'll come out, right? And at that point, the player characters, they can hide. There's plenty of trees to hide behind, okay? Except for the one player character that actually encounters them, unless they're really bunched up close, okay? And so there'll be a conversation between at least one of the player characters, maybe the whole group of player characters, and they'll talk with Irion, okay? Now, Irion will say, "Greetings," and, the player character will greet them back, and they'll say, "Who are you?" right? Now, Irion, and actually, these assassins, they're pretty unusual, right? They don't really hide who they are. They don't hide who they are to anybody, right? And one of the reasons why is they're not really afraid of many people at all, right? And so she say, "My name is Irion," right? And she'll introduce herself, and she'll start talking, and they can have small talk, like they can talk about, "Oh, were you at Six Bells?" or they can ask them any questions you want, right? But at some point, Irion will say, "So I'm glad you've been able to travel through this forest safely. Sometimes, when it's snowing like this, there can be creatures about, but it seems like you're doing okay. Hey, listen, I was looking for a man," right? Now, at this point, as soon as she starts talking about this, all of White will come out, okay? Every single member. And at this point, also, I want to point out, Irion, she's on a perfect, pristine specimen of a white horse, okay? And, of course, she's dressed in all white. She has this elegant white cape. She has white armor, and she has her white necklace, which we talked about all that equipment, right? Irion carries no weapons, okay? Now, when all the rest of White rides out, all 4 other members, the fighter, the cleric, the wizard, the rogue, okay? When they roll out, right, all of them will, their horses will seem a little restless, but this is actually something that White has learned for a long time. Their horses aren't restless at all. They just want their horses to seem restless so they can move, and they're constantly moving very slowly. Like they're circling the player characters very casually, trying to surround them, right? And so it will seem casual, like their horses are just kind of ambling around, but the reality is White will begin to surround the player characters, okay, the group of women, right? And she'll say, "Hey, we're looking for this particular person. He's an old man," right? And then they will, characteristic by characteristic, he's older, right? And they will describe Lig exactly, right? Now, they won't say, "Oh, he also happens to be," they will not say, "He happens to be filled with arrows that we shot into him," right? But at this point, the player characters will see Marsta. If they say, "What do we see?" you should describe them, and you should say, you should describe all of their weapons, and describe each one of them, and you do need to tell them, all of their weapons are white, and actually you can have them make a perception check. If any of them make the perception check, you'll say, or an insight check, you'll say, or an investigation check, you could say, "Okay, hey, Marsta has arrows that match exactly the arrows that you saw in Lig, and they're not close, they're exact." right? So at that point, the player characters have another decision, right? Now at this point, white is not showing any signs of aggression, except that they are trying to surround the player characters. And you know, but at this point, they don't have any fight in them, right? They have not determined to kill these player characters, so they don't really have a reason to kill the player characters, right? Unless the player characters say, "Hey, we're chasing a creature through the forest." It's possible that they might have told them that. If they tell them that, then Irion and White will say, "Oh, you know what? Why don't we help you we'll help you trace this beast. We can assist you with that. Marsta over here is quite a good shot, right? You know, so they'll definitely aid them, right? But at this point, you know, the player characters have seen all of White. White's there. They have a clue that these are the people who killed Lig. And at that point, they need to decide what they're going to do. They can dismiss themselves and say, you know, well, it was real nice meeting you. Bye. And then literally just walk a few hundred yards away and ride on without dealing with White. But if any one of them goes, hey, you know, I think you killed Lig, or anything like that, immediately Marsta will start firing, and all of White will go into full combat mode and do every single thing possible to kill every player character, right? And I will tell you right now, you know, I already told you all the magic items for White. I absolutely feel it should be absolutely possible that one single player character, or up to half the player characters, should probably be able to be killed by White if the combat goes the way it would normally go. And the reason why is they are incredibly deadly. Okay, now you know, if the player characters get an idea that, oh my gosh, we're not going to be able to beat them, they have the ability to run. Don't stop your player characters from running, right? But these guys were designed to kill 1 to half of your party, especially if they do not fight effectively. If your team is fighting really effectively, and by the way, there's nothing that will make White run except there are 2 triggers. If Marsta or Irion die, okay, before anybody else, actually, if they die at any point, that will break the group. Because what will happen is if Marsta or Irion dies, then the other one, Marsta or Irion, they'll run to the body, and they'll be very emotional, right? And they'll literally stop fighting, okay? You know, and they'll be just kind of shocked, like that it's not even possible, okay? And then the rest of the group, they'll run. And the reason why is they're all hired team members, right? White is a good team, but the heart of the team is Marsta and Irion. And they are growing to be more of a team, but they're not unbreakable. That is one trigger that will break this group. So if any of the players kill Marsta or Irion, it should be a rout. They should be the other 3 will run, and then the player characters can choose to spare Marsta or Irion, the one that lived, or they can just kill them, because that person will be so distraught they really won't be able to functionally fight. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an idea of how White will actually fight them. All right, there are some special factors about the chosen location. 2 specifically, okay? So this is happening in a grove in a forest filled with snow, and it is there's snow on the ground. There's about 1.5 feet of snow on the ground, and it is currently snowing, all right? So with that, basically, the first thing to know is that all missile fire, okay, whether that be arrows, whether that be what is it again? I'm sorry. Whether that be daggers, throwing axes, javelins, any kind of traditional missile weapon, right? And including spells in this case, unless it's magic missile, unless it really just, if it takes it to hit roll, then it will be affected by this. It has a 1/3 chance of hitting a tree before it hits its target, okay? Because there's going to be a lot of motion in this combat, and there's so many trees. The trees are about every 15 to 30 feet, and so whenever you roll, if you make your roll, but before you make your roll, your to hit roll, you actually roll to see if you strike a tree. And so you can roll a 1d6, and if you hit a 1 or 2, you hit a tree, and it's fully effective, and you hit it with whatever, you put an arrow into it, or you put a throwing axe into it, and then there's no attack against people on the white. Now, Marsta is such a skilled actually all of the members of white do not actually suffer from this, and the reason why is they've been working here for months, right? And so they're very used to the forest and the mobility of their horses, and also their constant fighting in they're very, very used to fighting in this particular forest, and they're very, very used to fighting in the cold, and they're very used to fighting in the snow. Okay, all right, so they will not suffer the same problem. Okay, but your player characters will. One thing I do want to throw out there: if any of them are Outlanders, then they will not suffer that. Okay, if they have the Outlander background. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I would also throw in there, if they have the survival skill, same thing. You can take that away, and they don't suffer from it. Okay. All right. So the next one is, here you go. So white are all in white, so, and they're literally in a snowstorm right now. It's not, it is a snowstorm. It's been going on for a couple days, and it's probably going to go on for another few days. It's not, and there's snow coming down right now, right? They're all dressed in white. That means that any ranged attack is at disadvantage, right? So that's it. That's the white encounter at Emivoir Grove with white. Thank you.